But we're going to go ahead and get started now. So the topic for today is immigration options for entrepreneurs in uncertain times. And the plan is that we are going to be chatting for about an hour, and we'll have ample time for Q&A. And so I'll tell you a little bit about how that will work. Before I do want to note that this presentation is an educational service by Alcorn Immigration Law. All information discussed should not be construed as legal advice for any specific action and is an overview only. Please be sure to consult with a knowledgeable professional for assistance with your particular issue. Okay, so what I wanted to mention, a few housekeeping things before we get started. First of all, this is being recorded, so you'll receive a recording by email. Second, whatever questions you put in the Q&A panel must be indicated as anonymous attendee for your name. If you do not, people will see your name and your question will not be confidential. So use the Q&A panel at your discretion, but please note that to ensure the confidentiality of your question, I recommend using the anonymous attendee function for submitting a question. You can put your questions in the Q&A panel now. I've been doing webinars and AMAs for the past few weeks where we've been oversubscribed with questions, and I haven't been able to answer all of them. I would like to try to answer as many questions as possible. And the only way for me to gauge my time and use this time and measure how much time we're going to spend on each topic is if I can see in the Q&A panel what your questions actually are. So if you definitely have questions that you're hoping to get answers to today, even if I might cover them in the slides, I would encourage you to type them in now because I'm just going to be able to answer questions in the Q&A panel only and not in the chat window. And it's really first come, first serve, and I go through them in order. So type your question now if you have it. Okay, so our mission at Alcorn Immigration Law is to change the world through immigration by helping brilliant people to have freedom and security to work in their flow state in the United States and build their dreams. So we're all about overcoming borders, expanding opportunity, and connecting the world by practicing compassionate, creative, and cutting-edge immigration law in service of the betterment of humanity. So we are happy to help you. We have limited capacity right now, which I can explain more. But by way of background, my name is Sophie Alcorn. I'm the founder of Alcorn Immigration Law, the host of the Sophie Alcorn podcast. For 4 years, I had a column for TechCrunch, which you can find online. All those articles are now available and complimentary. And I just believe the world should be a place where every child, every person has the opportunity to self-actualize and work in their flow state and build their dreams. And I think that will solve a lot of the world's problems and make the world a better place for all of us. My team is composed of compassionate, dedicated service professionals, attorneys, client journey coordinators. We have offices in Palo Alto and Houston. And we've supported almost 5,000 clients over the last 9.5 years from all over the world. And actually, this fall is going to be the 10-year anniversary of when I started Alcorn Immigration Law on my kitchen in Mountain View. So we've been growing, we've been hiring, and we're committed right now. Our main focus is being able to deliver high quality work with compassion and clear communication for all of our clients on predictable timelines. So due to everything that's been going on with the new presidency and just different changes, we do not currently have capacity for any urgent or expedited cases, and we are having longer case preparation timelines right now than usual. And I can, speak to that more for specific types of cases, but just want to be clear about that. The main lesson today is keep calm and build. And I see the questions coming into the chat window right now. So super helpful. I already see 5. I'll go through my slides and we will try to answer as many questions as possible. But I do appreciate the questions and I can definitely answer them throughout. So, okay. So first of all, a lot of stuff is happening in the world right now. We have lots of things for AI and we have lots of things happening in the United States. So for artificial intelligence, it's changing every day. The EU recently announced a 200 billion euro investment in AI. The UK recently published the AI Opportunities Action Plan. Since 2017, China has had the goal to become the world's major AI innovation center by 2030. But, you know, President Trump hit the ground running in the White House with his own executive order, declaring that the United States will be the first in the world with artificial intelligence. And they're currently working on implementing that within the Office of Science, Technology, and Policy within the White House, seeking comments. So one of the things I've been working on is submitting my own recommendations for how we should be structuring high-skilled immigration to support this AI race in the world. President Trump recently said, "Come make your product in America, and we will give you among the lowest taxes of any nation on earth." And last night, indeed, he announced the possibility of a new gold card, which I'm very curious about. I watched his speech about that on YouTube. So a few details have emerged. I can speak more about what I know about that in the Q&A panel if people would like more details on it, but the information is limited right now. But another really important thing I see for tech and immigration is that we have this alignment now with all of these technology advisors in the White House and in the cabinet, and they are in favor of high-skilled immigration. So Elon Musk, David Sachs, Sriram Krishnan, JD Vance, Vivek Ramaswamy, all of these individuals, you know, have close ties to tech and entrepreneurship and innovation. And so they're playing key roles in this administration. And we're also seeing these AI partnerships like Stargate, right, take forefront. Regarding the trade war and the tariffs, you know, that is still emerging. And what President Trump said in his first couple days of the administration was that if people want to avoid tariffs, then those companies need to open up satellite offices in the United States to produce goods locally, and then they'll have great treatment. So that's a sign actually that the L1A visa, which faced a lot of scrutiny in Trump 1.0, is actually going to be a main visa of focus for this Trump 2.0 administration. Now, in the local, so that was the global context. In the local context, immigration is obviously critical for startup founders and crucial for international entrepreneurs. Immigration is really the key to launching and scaling startups in the United States. And the US is still the best place to be for startups, for M&A, for other exit pathways like IPO, for just building up product market channel fit, having access to the US market, having one language of your customers. There's so many, and Americans like to buy stuff. So there's so many reasons to have a startup here. And so immigration and knowing what those routes are that are essential, that will allow you to establish and grow your business, is super important. And then once you're here, immigration is a very important tool to access the world's best and brightest people to help you build and to join forces with you. So all of it is super important for immigration is super important for startups for many reasons. And getting the right type of visa and the right immigration strategy and ensuring compliance with US immigration regulations is critical for immigrants, people working in big tech, aspiring startup founders, people hoping to come to the US for the first time, and for companies who want to hire and retain the top talent in the United States to allow you to expand, to enter the US market and really expand. Now, the H-1B is coming up, and this is an important option for entrepreneurs. So first, I want to speak to the lottery dynamics and then the realities of sponsorship. I can throw in a few words about the most recent webinar I did on how to get H-1Bs for startup founders. But if you want more of that, then definitely put those questions in the chat window. So what's going on with the H-1B lottery? This is our last week to accept new H-1B lottery registration cases at Alcorn Immigration Law for our standard rate. Our rate will be increasing in March, so we have limited availability to accept additional H-1B registrations. But if you want the lower price, definitely please contact us this week to sign up your company, and so that we can put your candidates into the lottery. There is an online account system that has been slightly updated since last year, but in general, it is an online registration. We partner with your account to do this handshake process. We verify all your information. We make sure that everybody who's being put into the lottery can actually have an approvable case. So we go through all of these layers of checks to make sure that everything's correct. It is one candidate, one chance. And if a single candidate has more than one entry, that is problematic. The H-1B modernization rule came into effect on January 17th. And it says a lot of things. It changes the definition of specialty occupation to make it more about the job requirements and the classes on the transcript to confirm that somebody has the right expertise to do this specialty occupation. So we're seeing those changes. Another big change is that there's going to be 18-month initial H-1Bs for people who own more than 50% of the sponsoring company or who have a controlling interest. So the good news is that this is a direct blessing of startup owner H-1Bs, where you can't self-petition, but it's called an owner beneficiary petition, where the company sponsors the founder. We've been doing this for years. We've had 100% approval, helping many, many startups with this, but a lot of people still felt unclear about it. But now it's like explicitly in the H-1B modernization rule that that's all cool. So we're seeing a lot of early stage startups from different countries whose founders want to relocate to the US, where the company is like a Delaware corporation. It's putting the founder in from Europe. And then if they're selected, then the founder plans to move here. So that's one way to do an H-1B. Another way, of course, would be if you're on OPT or STEM OPT or some other immigration status like an H-4 EAD, and you want a chance at being selected in the lottery through your startup. We can absolutely help with that. There's no minimum number of employees that the company must have, and there's no minimum amount of funding. So it's pretty accessible, assuming the company has the ability to pay the prevailing wage once the H-1B takes effect. There's also been this additional focus on compliance with the new H-1B modernization rule. Most of the immigration enforcement actions we're seeing in the country are primarily targeted towards like raids and businesses that may employ people who are undocumented. We have not seen yet any surge of employer compliance for white collar jobs. But the H-1B lottery definitely ought to start now, immediately, if you have not already taken action and you want to participate, because the lottery is going to be open from March 7th to March 24th, and that is a once-a-year chance to get an H-1B that would start on October 1st. So definitely pursue it. Regarding the sponsorship realities, the compliance demands are probably going to be heavier in the new administration, but we haven't actually seen that take practical effect yet. And then because of the limitations of the annual numerical cap on the number of H-1Bs, where there's 65,000 available each year for anybody born anywhere in the world, and an additional 20,000 set aside for people with advanced degrees from the United States, We are exploring uncapped options further, and historically, our clients have primarily relied upon fellowships at different nonprofit organizations where they can get employed part-time to work at a nonprofit that has an affiliation with the university. There's a new option that I would like to test with any clients who would like. So if you're interested in this, please let me know. But there's a way potentially that we can get your startup or your company cap exempt status if the individual is spending at least 50% of the time in their job at your company doing something that will benefit a university, either through internships, counseling students, conducting research. And so that just needs to be 50% of the time. And then the private employer can qualify to get H-1Bs without the lottery. There's another rule that says you can have 2 concurrent H-1Bs. And if we get one of them for part-time work that's cap exempt, then theoretically we could piggyback on a second concurrent H-1B for full-time work that would also be cap exempt. So if you have a university affiliation in your startup where somebody could spend like 5 hours a week doing something to help some university, we might be able to get a combination of 2 H-1Bs for the company to secure H-1B status for that individual without the lottery, without needing an external partner organization, nonprofit. So that's a new thing that I'm testing if anybody would like to try that with us. Now, the O1 is another very common option for entrepreneurs. It's not always guaranteed. So you see stuff on like Twitter of people being like, I went through this accelerator and look at my, O1 denial. We've still been having great success with all of our O1s that we filed, which have all been primarily for founders since the new administration took effect. So where the processing trends for EB1As have become more strict and random, O1s, we're still going strong. So welcome the O1s, although we do have an increased processing time right now. Basically, for an O1, you have to show that you have national or international acclaim by proving evidence in at least 3 of the 8 required categories, showing that you're at the very top of your field or subfield in a country or in the world. So, it could be like top, I don't know, top LLM builder of Finland or something, or, top AI for enterprise entrepreneur of Mexico. So we get to be very specific as to how we are crafting your field, showing that you're excellent. These usually end up being hundreds of pages with 4 to 6 letters of recommendation. And previously they were taking us 3 months, but now they're taking about 4 months simply because I'm trying to scale services to be able to support more people, and we have to prioritize client service to our existing clients right now. When you're comparing the advantages of like, should you get an O1 or should you get an H-1B? Well, the O1 is great because there's no lottery, there's no degree requirement. It's a little bit slightly worse than an H-1B, and that an H-1B is clearly dual intent, where you can be pursuing a green card and you can still travel freely. The O1 is quasi-dual intent, so it's not as clear. And in this maximum vetting environment, it might be something to be cautious about while traveling and doing visa stamping if you're pursuing a green card while you're on O1. Like 99.99% of the time, I think it's completely fine for people. Then the other advantage for high-skilled entrepreneurs and other people seeking an O1 is that if you get an O1 through an agent, then we're allowed to include an itinerary of services, which means that you don't have to be stuck just working at one company. You can actually have multiple streams of income, including paid advisory, shares at other people's startups, consulting work, being a contractor, having a part-time job. We craft the itineraries for our clients very flexibly so that you can basically do any work within your field without needing an O1 amendment during the O1 period. And the other really cool update about an O1 is that in January, maybe December, The Biden administration changed the O1 extension process so that more people can qualify for 3-year extensions of O1 status rather than 1-year extensions. So I think that makes a big difference for people. Now, there's also international entrepreneur parole. I still don't feel quite confident about this. If you can't get an H-1B through the lottery and you don't want to pay to do a cap exempt H-1B through a nonprofit, and if you can't get a cap exempt H-1B through that new thing that I was talking about, you have no other option, but you did raise at least $311,000 from US investors with the right track record. Theoretically, you could still qualify for international entrepreneur parole. International entrepreneur parole rule status. That being said, I haven't accepted any clients for this year because I have to say a lot of caveats about it, which is, there's supposed to be 3,000 people a year applying for this when Obama created it. But in reality, like less than 100 people have ever applied because there's no premium processing. The Trump 1.0 tried to kill this program. There's a bunch of litigation. It's technically back, but the processing times were like 3 years. Biden people finally sped up the adjudication, but knowing how the prior Trump administration felt about this and knowing that the same people are in the White House now doing immigration policy, even though we have like Elon doing Doge, I just don't think it's reliable. So if you want to try it once again, I would love to test it out with you. But I just want you to know all those risks before we go into it. Also, it's not a real visa, it's parole, and they're trying to undo all types of parole in this administration. So it's just good to be cautious. There's also E2 visas. E2s are investor visas for people from certain countries. Citizens of certain countries do not qualify. So Brazil, China, India, Russia, lots of people from those countries, but no treaties of trade or investment between the US and those countries. Many other countries do qualify. Japan, Australia, New Zealand, a lot of Western European countries, various other countries. You really just have to check if your country has a treaty. In order to do this for a startup, the cleanest way is to have a company in the US that's at least 50% owned by citizens of your country. And then show that $100,000 to $200,000 have been invested already into the US business and not just transferred to the bank account, but actually spent. And then we can get visas for the investor, any critical management, any essential employees, and spouses get automatic work authorization. And we actually just got an E2 approved yesterday in Frankfurt for an AI analyst at a startup where they had already gotten the founders E2s. The company is still majority owned by citizens of that country. They haven't raised further rounds that diluted their equity. And it was a super easy interview. The candidate just went, showed the documents, boom, 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 approved. And now they're processing the visa in his passport. Now, looking at green cards, there are several green card pathways, and it's really important to be strategic about these because the landscape has been shifting. So for self-petitioning, the 2 ways to self-petition are EB-1A for extraordinary ability and EB-2 national interest waiver. And there are other ways that startups can sponsor employees for green cards, like EB-1Bs for researchers, EB-1Cs for multinational managers and executives, which are very similar to the L1s, perm process with EB-2 and EB-3. So lots of pathways, they're all working. Perms have slowed down in the country because of layoffs, but many small businesses are still quite eligible to sponsor their employees for perms. So if you're putting employees in the lottery for H-1B, then after that, the next step would be sponsoring them for green card, usually through perm. But if you want to self-petition your green card, you really ought to look at the EB-1A and the EB-2 NIW. EB-2 NIWs used to be easy, but they're not anymore. There is new guidance that got published in January, changing the standards. And I'm still figuring out my analysis of this, but my feeling is the government may have created extra legal requirements that aren't actually part of the law, because the way they're interpreting EB2 and IW now, it's basically, unless you're already doing the EB2 and IW job, they're not going to approve you for all intents and purposes, practically speaking. So we used to be able to be like, here's the business plan, and this person has a master's degree, and once they get the EB2 and IW, they will start this company. And that worked for many clients for many years. But now it's like, oh, you're a founder? Well, show me you're already working at the startup, show me the startup raised money, show me your traction. Then okay, now your EB2 and IW can be approved. They also are very favorable towards EB2 and IWs for people working in research, but the main hit is that they are disfavoring EB2 and IWs for employees of corporations, because they're basically saying that the corporations should simply get the person a perm and go that route. So that is causing delays for many people as well. Additionally, for the EB1A, the processing is becoming tougher. There are more RFEs. There are notices of intent to deny. I've heard from other attorneys that they've even received denial straight up with no RFE and no NOID. Another major processing trend is that many of the cases we filed in December with premium processing have not been adjudicated. So that means that USCIS will refund you your $2,805 if they don't make a decision within the 15 business day window. But unfortunately, once they've crossed that, they have no incentive to make a quick decision. So many people are waiting for prolonged periods for their EB1As. So another strategy that we could possibly try is applying, waiting 6 to 8 months and then upgrading to EB1A later as a possible strategy. Happy to chat more about green cards later as well. Additional emerging visa alternatives, L1 visas, if you have a company back home and you are trying to transfer people who worked for you for at least 1 year to your US office. It can be the founder, it can be a sales engineer, it can be a director of sales North America, it can be an AI engineer. But it's definitely possible to transfer people. We can set up a new US office and we can get the manager or an executive or specialized knowledge worker a 1-year visa to come here and set up shop, and then you can get extensions beyond that. There's also various global entrepreneur and residence programs that you can apply to through universities. But if you're a startup founder, and you have a company and it has funding, it's more direct to get an O1 or an H1B in the lottery or a cap exempt H1B. There's also stuff at the regional level with more state-specific entrepreneurship initiatives. There's nonprofit organizations like Global Detroit. I recently interviewed their founder, Steve Tabachman, on my podcast, and they have a lot of really amazing opportunities for people. And then there's the Welcoming Economies Global Network, which is another pretty cool organization. So these are options to consider. And I don't know if my podcast with Steve came out yet. It'll be coming out soon. Oh no, here it is. I'll put the link in the chat window. But you guys, I see that some of you are putting questions in the webinar chat. Please do not send me questions there. I'm really not going to be able to answer them. I would like you to put any questions for me in the Q&A panel. That's the only way I will be able to manage your questions and answer them. But there's the podcast about Global Detroit, and the podcast is available on Spotify and Apple. Okay. Now we're navigating a bunch of policy uncertainties. So you have to stay ahead of the curve. We have a comprehensive newsletter that we publish a couple times a month that recaps everything that is changing. On social media, I record little videos and we have snippets of information that we try to publish as quickly as we can. But also, we're a law firm. We're not a public service news agency, although I wish I could be. But this means that, the gold card thing came out last night, but I haven't had a chance to do a post about it yet. But please do stay tuned to our stuff on social medias, because whatever we think is significant for people in tech with immigration, we're going to be eventually posting it there. It's really important also when you're navigating policy uncertainties to just build a resilient, diverse workforce, adaptable to change and to be lean and clear, and everybody has their one thing. But within that structure, it can make a ton of sense to leverage immigration as a competitive advantage and really secure top global talent. We're helping a robotics company. Everybody they hire from Harvard and MIT and Caltech, they all get poached by bigger companies. And so they're like, hey, we got to recruit the world's best and brightest robotics engineers and bring them here. So, that's something we're super happy to help with. It's not right for every industry, but for certain ones, it's critical. And then just thinking systematically about creating long-term international recruitment and retention strategies and developing your talent pipeline is a really important strategic advantage to think about securing for your company as you grow. All right, now we've had a lot of success stories. I'm going to try to get to the questions though, because we have several. We have 30, okay, 31. But look, I got an, okay, I will share this. I'm going to brag. I got an 01 for a salesperson approved a couple weeks ago. Have I ever done an 01 for a salesperson? No. Have I ever seen any examples of an 01 for a salesperson being approved? No, but I did it. I don't know how. I figured it out. It got approved. He's getting his visa. Super exciting. So there's a lot of this where it's like, if you don't know if you qualify, it's at least worth reaching out to us so that we can help figure out if there might be a chance. And starting early is critical, especially in this environment, because a lot of this, the strategy takes time and discussion. And as I mentioned, we're scaling, but right now I'm the person who's doing the consultations, and I only have so many hours in the day, and I wish I could multiply myself and help the entire world. And that's what I'm trying to build on the side at night to be able to do, but it takes time. And so that means that not leaving things till the last minute, especially if you need strategic advice, is extremely, extremely critical. And then the other thing I want to share is, because we can't help everybody all at once, but I want to. If you reach out to us, and if my team recommends either Legal Launch or Alcorn Academy or Ask Sophie, Ask Alcorn, those are things I've created to be able to help people. And I'm going to be doing a video about what those are and why we might recommend them. But if we can tell that you're really not qualified yet, we're going to send you to our complimentary online class, Alcorn Academy, that over 1,000 people have taken, and tons of people have gotten visas and green cards approved after that. If you have some of your evidence, but you're not sure how much, we're going to send you to Legal Launch, which is our 4-week evidence assessment and evaluation program that culminates in an attorney strategy session. We're either going to tell you, yeah, you're approvable, let's go. We're going to fully credit the money you've paid, $2,500 for Legal Launch, to your next case. Let's do it. Or here's your gap analysis, here's your personal checklist, here's what we think you need to do in the next 6 months to become qualified. Come back in that time frame, we'll credit the money you just paid, and we'll get started on your green card or your visa. So like, I've created these because they're the most effective way for us to help people and get you the information you need as quickly as possible. Additionally, we have a new service, which is written questions and answers. If you want me to respond directly, it's called Ask Sophie. It's more expensive. If you just want answers from our law firm, it's called Ask Alcorn, and it's slightly cheaper. And basically you pay, you give us a list of 10 questions, and our attorneys or I will provide a detailed written set of answers for you. And that is faster and more efficient than you waiting 2 or 3 weeks to get on my calendar. So all those things are meant to help people. Oh, here's the slide about that. But anyway, we covered it. If you reach out, we are going to ask you to complete our questionnaire. We try to make it as easy as possible. You should check as many boxes as you can that apply to you. It will help streamline our conversation. going to get to the Q&A, but I do just want to share our contact information. The QR code that you see here is to reach out to us for a consultation. You can also always email us hello@alcorn.law or call us because we have a phone and we have humans who answer the phone. Okay, now it's my favorite time of the week, rapid fire Q&A. How many questions can we get done in 20 minutes? We have 20 minutes and 40 questions. So here we go. I'll try to be quick, and I'll try to answer as many as I can as clearly and succinctly as possible. Okay. Somebody says, I'm running a company in the mobility tech space in India. We're net revenue positive and have a decent traction with paying customers. Congratulations. I'm in the late stage of talks of raising money from accredited VCs in the Bay Area. As a founder, what's the most direct route for me to relocate to the US while expanding operations of this tech startup, especially given that none of our customers are from the US? I think you should explore an L1A visa as an intra-company transferee manager and executive. You could potentially put yourself in the H-1B lottery, and we should also talk about an O1, and we would be delighted to help you. And those are really exciting developments. Can an international PhD student on an F1 visa work on a nonprofit in their home country? If you're in the United States, no. If you're outside of the United States, yes. Your visa only controls you when you're in the United States. But if you have a visa and you're not in the US, you can do whatever you want. You also said the word work. You're not authorized to work on an F1. If you are volunteering for free with no hope of future money or job, then technically you could do some stuff on the side to help out that nonprofit. I wouldn't consider that work. But they can't pay you in your home country for stuff you're doing while you're in the United States. I'm in an H-1B visa with a company. I want to go full-time for my startup and have the startup sponsor my H-1B. Congratulations. What are the minimum wage requirements and how much funding should you have? It depends. We have to figure it out after we open your case. In the consultation, we talk about if this is going to be a full-time or part-time H-1B, and if it's going to be a concurrent H-1B or a full-on H-1B transfer. We're also going to talk about the funding sources, if it's going to be a loan, friends and family round, angel investment, self-funding, venture capital. And we're going to talk about the type of job you're going to do, where you're located, and what level you're going to be at. From there, we're going to calculate the prevailing wage, and we're going to let you know precisely what the obligations would be. We have many founders who can only afford like 20-hour-a-week H-1Bs, and so we can also, work with that or arrange. So it just depends. Can we apply for an O1 visa while on an H4 visa? Yes, absolutely. Can an individual who is currently on H-1B work on a startup? Only if you get work authorization for the startup. If you do not have work authorization, then you should not work on the startup. Certain things that people might do before creating a startup, like brainstorming, networking, chit-chatting, I wouldn't classify those as work. So often the most effective strategy is to come up with plans, figure out funding, and then do the H-1B and then start working. As a foreigner, is it advisable to incorporate a US company first and build the company remotely before seeking an entrepreneurial pathway to get a visa to the United States? It just depends on your goals and your timing in your company and your possibilities of success in your home country. Because from a startup perspective, if you know you want to be here and you're in like Lithuania or whatever, then do you want to build for the Lithuanian market and then restart everything once you move here? Probably not. Do you want to create your Delaware corporation from Lithuania and, reach the US market remotely and get an H-1B in the lottery, or maybe an L1 if you build up operations in Lithuania, possibly? So it really depends. That's not like a one-size-fits-all decision. What options are there if a client completed their degree in 2023 with a corporate sustainability specialization and their OPT ended on January 28th, 2025, If they apply for the H-1B visa this year and are chosen, can they remain in the US until their job starts in October? If you have regular OPT or STEM OPT, yes. But if you did not pursue or you were not eligible for regular OPT and you get selected in the lottery, you're gonna have to leave before the end of your 60-day grace period, before the end of March, and then you would need to consular process your H-1B if selected to return. Oh, here's the question. Can I describe the gold card? Yeah-ish. I mean, it was a 5-minute YouTube clip that I've been analyzing. It seems like they're trying to avoid making it a new law passed by Congress. It seems like they're trying to cancel the EB-5 program. I think in order to do that, they would have to create new regulations, which would typically take 6 months to go through, even if they're fast-tracked. And they would have to redefine the EB-5 program. It's not entirely clear to me if this is legal or how they would do it. But let's assume for the sake of argument that some gold card magically exists in the next 3 to 6 months. It seems from those remarks last night that it would be a green card and it would cost $5 million and you would not need to start a business, and somebody else, like an employer, could pay the money for you, or a rich uncle or whoever, a scholarship from a philanthropist. And it seems like the money would go directly to pay off the debt. And it seemed also like there was something in there about taxes, where high net worth individuals would only be taxed on their US income in the US and not their global taxation. So that's what I could gather. It's not super clear to me. We're doing more analysis, but it's very exciting, and we will definitely be helping with gold cards once they become available. So stay tuned for more. If you need a recording of one of our prior sessions, please email marketing@alcorn.law, and Alan will be able to help you with anything you need. Next question. As the husband of an amazing entrepreneur, what should I consider I'm not going to be able to do live. We don't have enough time for any live questions, so please put your questions in the Q&A panel and I'll try to answer as many as possible. As the husband of an amazing entrepreneur, what should I consider in order to maximize my ability to work in America? Will my wife and her profession and company weigh into my advantage? It really depends on the visa type. So automatic spousal work authorization comes with the spouses of E2 visa holders and L1 visa holders. If she gets an O1, you can't work until you guys go through the green card process, which could take a year or more to get a work permit. The H-1B also doesn't have automatic spousal work authorization. You have to hit certain green card milestones. So if you're an aspiring immigrant entrepreneur, you want to move your family here and you want your spouse to be able to work, the 2 visa types to prioritize are L1 and E2. What are the options of getting a green card as an entrepreneur under the EB-1A criteria? A transition moving from H-1B as an entrepreneur on EB-1? I don't really understand the question, but I think what you're asking is, can you go from H-1B to EB-1? And the answer to that is yes, absolutely. I think it's slightly easier to go from O1 to EB-1, but we get people approved for EB-1 coming from H-1B all the time. Another question. In the past, startups had to have 3 years of salary of each H-1B held. That's actually not true. I've been doing H-1Bs with as little as, $50,000, $60,000 in the bank account, even for prevailing wages of more. I've also even gotten an H-1B approved with a company that had $8,000 in the bank account plus letters of intent from customers. So there's a lot of myths around immigration, and a lot of it just has to do with it's really hard to innovate in legal because we have live human guinea pigs, and we should only test something if it's absolutely necessary to our client with their full, knowing consent. So it's hard to take risks as lawyers and try new things, but fortunately we've been able to try a lot over the years. How would the new H-1B changes affect founders who are already with another Fortune 500 company and want to leave and go full time? Totally possible. We do H-1B transfers from people in FANGs and Fortune 500 companies to their startups or their consultancy rules all the time. So you could start your own LLC or C Corp in Delaware or California or New York or whatever. You need to talk to a corporate attorney about what of that is right for you. We can help you quit your day job and you can go full-time in your company. And it doesn't have to be a technology startup. It could be a professional services company. You could sell products. Somebody I'm helping wants to start a shoe company on Amazon manufacturing, and they would use their data analysis background to help. So there's lots of ways to do this. What options are available for someone who is an individual consultant to move and operate from the US? They had the H-1B before, but they haven't been in the US for the past 2 years. Can they sponsor their own visa? Yes, you can. Exactly. We would set up a consultancy for you. You would get an 18-month H-1B. You can choose if you want to be working 20, 40, whatever hours a week. You can figure out the prevailing wage, and it would probably take 2 to 4 months to get here, partially depending on if you need a new H-1B stamp in your passport. Oh, thank you for the great work you're doing. You're very welcome. We're trying our best, and we're trying to continuously improve our products and services every single day to help as many people as possible. What are some common reasons for RFEs for software engineers? It depends on the case type. The EB-1A RFEs are so arbitrary, they don't even make sense anymore. If it's for an H-1B, you know, it could be the prevailing wage or something, but usually the H-1Bs get approved, no problem. The current rate of RFEs, will it be better to get a blanket L-1A instead of the individual L-1A provided the company is eligible for both? Yes, I always would suggest that if your company is eligible for a blanket L1, you should go for it. You have to, you know, you have to be doing a pretty substantial amount of business, but it makes it so much more easier and streamlined for all of your employees. I highly recommend it. How do I know if my work's relation to the area of study is actually considered valid and compliant? I work in a role that's not chosen by most people in my degree, but I do use some concepts learned from my degree in my work. How to best be prepared. Okay, if it's OPT or SEM OPT, your school is in charge of this when they issue the I-20. If it's an H-1B, your immigration lawyer is in charge of this after you get selected in the lottery, and when you're actually having your company prepare your case, that's where we would do the legal argument about what are the job duties, what coursework have you done, and then what additional experience do you have to prove that this is a specialty occupation that you're qualified for. Can a degree holder in corporate sustainability, oh, we already did that one. Wait, no, different question, same person. How does this new option work? The one I was talking about where a company can get CAP exempt status. Okay, the company has to be affiliated with a university or a nonprofit research institution, and the beneficiary's job must be designed so that at least 50% of the time that they're being paid to work at the private company, those efforts are actually contributing to the research work or whatever the mission is of that qualifying nonprofit. So if it's a startup with a university affiliation, then I would suggest looking at, hey, can you mentor students for 5 hours a week? Can you supervise interns for 5 hours a week? Can you do research for professor's lab for 5 hours a week? Those are the types of things that would help set this up. Would you be able to share any O1 petitions you filed or any public O1 petitions so we can get an understanding of how much exceptionality is required from an applicant? Nope, these are all private and I am not at liberty to share them. Part of it too is because even if you redact the person's name, if you just Google based on the accomplishments, you can reverse engineer who it is. So that's a liability, and we're, you know, bound by confidentiality rules to protect our clients' secret information. But the level of exceptionality is what our questionnaire is designed to assess. So when you check these boxes, we will screen you and direct you towards either just hire us directly, have a consultation with me if we're unclear, sign up for our legal launch 4-week assessments to confirm your evidence proves sufficiently that you're extraordinary enough, or go to our online class. So we try really hard to help people have a clear option for that. Is a startup company eligible to hire an OPT person and sponsor the H-1B or an O-1 work visa for those completing their master's degree in the US? Absolutely. We would love to help you. Please reach out. What is the success rate for O-1B visas? So far this year, 100%. Maybe for all time, like 90% for our firm. I don't know nationally what they are. Is the prevailing wage, if the prevailing wage is $100 annually, do we need to show 18 months of money, 150K in the company, or 3 years, 300K? Neither, because as I described, oh dear, my internet connection's unstable. Okay, I hope I'm back. I'm just gonna keep talking. Hopefully you guys can hear me. You do not need to show either of those amounts, but if you want to be ultra conservative and do everything possible and you have unlimited money and you want to have a 3-year job making $100,000 on an H-1B for a company that's pre-revenue, then you should have like 350K in the bank to pay for payroll taxes and other affiliated expenses and cover all of your employment and never have to get a customer within that time. As I said, we've done it with 50K routinely, 60K, $8,000. Next question. Can I work as a product manager after pursuing a Master's of Science, Computer Science degree? Most people who study MSCS work as software engineers. I'm worried about the clause for work having to be directly related to the area of study for OPT. Please advise. I think lots of people and lots of companies do this, and I think it is directly related, and I think lots of schools would approve it. But your company's immigration lawyer should help you choose the right category to get your I-765, I-20 produced by the school. For the E-2 investor visa, for what duration is the visa granted? Depends on your country of origin. For most countries, it's a 5-year multiple entry visa with 2-year periods of stay. Is it dual intent? No, it's quasi-dual intent like the O1. And you're very welcome. You said, thank you for spending your valuable time to help us. Looking forward to getting your services in the future. Thank you so much. I love helping people. I wish I could just only help people all day long. That is what I am trying to get to because it's so fun for me. And I get to meet so many brilliant, amazing people from all over the world doing such crazy, cool stuff. So we're getting there. Since a company is built on several functions, however, as a founder, you have a specialized degree in one area of the company. How do we show that your degree fully matches the startup execution? Oh, you're in great luck. Another part of the H-1B modernization rule that I didn't mention is that now you're allowed to spend less than 50% of your time on an H-1B doing administrative tasks for the startup if you are an owner beneficiary. So you're allowed to expressly now, which is pretty cool. Is it advised to have funding to boost our chances to get approval? It's not necessary. It can be very difficult for some people to get funding. So I wouldn't say, like, don't put your life on hold to get funding. Like, at least let's have a conversation, because for some people, funding can make a difference. But for most of our clients, funding doesn't make a difference to their immigration chances. Is there a list of cap-exempt employers willing to hire software engineers? Not to my knowledge. Regarding the EB-2 getting tougher, does this also raise the bar for approval for an EB-1A? I mean, separate reasons. I would say the EB-1A is more of like being graded on a curve. So the standards are slipping higher and higher instead of having an objective standard. And then are there requirements for an O1 virtually equivalent to an EB-1A? They're technically the same, but they're interpreted differently. So the O1's a lot lower of a standard and the EB1 is much higher standard. The link to the podcast about the state-specific entrepreneur programs, I already did put that in the chat window, so that's available to you. It's the Sophie Alcorn podcast. Do you have any cases where a podcaster has gotten an EB1 visa? What are some important milestones to apply to that one? I haven't done podcaster yet, but I've done artists, TikTok stars, influencers, entertainers, writers. So we should just you should just complete our questionnaire and we can have a consultation. For EB1A, what is the success rate for someone with no research background working in industry? In 2024, we did hundreds and they had like a 98% approval rating. This year, we're seeing slower adjudications, more RFEs and more NOIDs. So it's harder to assess right now. Between the H-1B lottery, if your company is applying, then is it better to take the O-1 route for your startup, or is it better to apply to the H-1B visa, your startup and your company you are working at? Each person gets one chance in the lottery. So if your company is putting you in, just let them do it. Later, figure out if you were accepted. If you were, stay at your company to get the O-1 change of status approved and get 3 pay stubs. So into like the fall. And then you can get a concurrent H-1B for your startup, or you can transfer your H-1B, or you can still pursue an O-1. But I would just get through the lottery first. And just remember, 2 companies sponsoring you can disqualify you now. So only have 1 company sponsor you in the lottery. Can I share more about my new test on H-1B cap exempt? Does the candidate need to do the coming lottery, or the process can start anytime? No, the whole point of the H-1B cap exempt is no lottery. We can do it any time of year. So if you do the lottery now, like it's H-1B lottery season. That's an amazing chance. Just if you have a company, just do the lottery. If you get selected, your H-1B will kick in October. If you're not selected, then we can do the cap exempt H-1B anytime, or even if you are selected, but you want to move here before October, we can do the cap exempt anytime. Can I apply for my concurrent H-1B at my startup as the CTO of the LLC? What salary is needed? Yes, I don't know what salary is needed. What determines the salary for the CTO? Your job duties, your location, your wage level. Does the state affect the salary? Yes, it is geography dependent based on the prevailing wage for common workers in that area. So if you work in Idaho, you're going to need to make less money than if you live in San Francisco. What is our legal fee for the firm for an H-1B transfer from big tech to entrepreneur? $6,250 plus USCIS filing fees, which are $2,010 plus recommended $2,805 for premium processing. Does it include resolving the RFE? No, that is separate. That is a flat fee. That is typically $1,000 to $5,000, but we have a very high H-1B success rate with no RFEs. Can I move my H-1B from a company to my own company and sponsor myself to a green card later? Yes. When I reach out, I'm asked to enroll for a course. Yes, that is Alcorn Academy. That is my 15 video online class that I used to charge $1,000 for, but I made complimentary to be able to help more people because we've heard that the information is so valuable. Is there a process where we evaluate the profile first and suggest next steps? That is Legal Launch. That is our 4-week evidence evaluation and assessment program. That is $2,500, and you're also welcome to sign up for that. Is Legal Launch a one-on-one program or an online course? Legal Launch is a program with my firm. You meet with your client journey coordinator for several meetings, uploading all of your evidence based on our 20-page evidence checklist. We do an internal 3-layer strategy review, and it culminates in an attorney meeting with your case strategy assessment and any gaps analysis about any personal evidence recommendations necessary to become qualified. Somebody's asking if it's true if the main differentiator between an O-1 and an EB-1, besides more options for potential qualification criteria, is that the latter needs international acclaim. I don't understand the question, but one of the other main technical legal differences is that the EB-1A has a final merits determination where the O-1 does not, making the O-1 easier. If I want to apply for an H-1B this cycle with you, will there be a free consultation where we let you know if you're eligible? You currently make $60,000 per year as a product manager in San Francisco at a startup. I believe you would be eligible. We probably don't need a consultation. I would say the first step is just you can retain us. Company can retain us to put you in the lottery. We charge $2,200. If you're selected, we can let you know if you need to actually make $65,000 a year or if you only need to work part-time. Probably $60K per year is too little for full-time work in San Francisco, but it might be sufficient for part-time work. Somebody's on an H-1B at the current job. Can they start an LLC even if they're not drawing a salary? Yes, but only if you don't do any work on any products or services related to that company, like a real estate holding company. Otherwise, don't create an LLC until you have to, and then we should get you a concurrent H-1B. If someone is a content creator or influencer, can they qualify for an O-1B? Yes. If they are already in the US and creating content, does that violate anything immigration related? I mean, you can visit here and you can do research here, but you shouldn't be getting paid here. You shouldn't be getting sponsorships here. So that's the sort of discussion we would have. Currently on H-1B with a priority date of December 2018, process of setting up a startup, ready to invest up to 1 million, working for EB5, but now the situation changed. What are the options for me after yesterday's announcement? Probably like an H-1B transfer and maybe an O1 and maybe an EB1. It's definitely worth a conversation. I started my ABA business in Georgia and have 3 clients. 3 clients have the potential of getting 10 clients and 10 employees in a year. How should I get a green card? I don't understand the question. I don't know. Maybe you qualify for an EB2 NIW green card, so we can chat about that. For Latin American students currently in an MBA or MSc program, is it worth it to apply to startups? Can they sponsor you for any kind of visa? They can, but will they is the question. So you just have to find a company willing to sponsor you, but a very early stage startup is eligible to be a sponsor for your immigration. I'm currently on an H-1B for my own startup, but looking to start another company. My profile is ready for an O-1 visa, but there's a chance of an RFE for EB-1A after consulting attorneys. There's a possibility I might have to go from H-1B to H-4 due to funding running out in the interim of the current startup. What visa do you suggest for the new startup? Should I get an O-1 given it will take some time to raise funds for the new startup? Do you suggest staying on the H-1B as long as possible until I get my O-1, or is it all right to move to H-4 and then apply for O-1? No, like apply for an H-4, then apply for an O-1, then apply for an EB-1. That's probably the clearest path for you. What is the processing time for international entrepreneur parole before the new administration? It was about 6 months in the second half of 2024. What is the success rate? We've had 100% of the people who stayed with it get approved. They did get RFEs. They got approved after their RFEs, but most clients had to withdraw and do O1s or something else because the timing didn't work. Oh, thank you very much for your kudos. I'm going to try to answer the remaining few questions, and thank you all for staying with me. Okay. O1, launching a startup and getting seed funding. Suppose $250K for it while serving as CEO, CTO would satisfy critical role and high salary. Yet probably if it's on a safe note, it's easier for us to argue the valuation if there's a valuation cap in the safe note, or getting an investor letter. But yes, that can be good for that for an O1. And oh, I'm so glad, such a valuable community that removes the fear of immigration. Yes, that is what I want to do. This is a Byzantine and complicated, silly system, but it is totally possible to have immigration success and chart your future destiny and be able to be in control of your life and do the things you want to do. So I'm so glad. I mentioned a founder could do other business functions other than their degree field. Can you elaborate this and provide documentation? It is the H-1B modernization rule. It is available on the government website. It is in the preamble in the first 60 pages. You can read it and it is there. Does having an exit liquidity event, say north of 30 million for your mobility tech startup, demonstrate extraordinary ability in your field and add to the eligibility accolades for securing an O-1 visa? Absolutely, but not necessary. They also possess a master's and spent 3 years on an H-1B. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. You can use that for sure. Probably to help in EB-1A. What's the premium processing for an H-1B lottery? There is none, but there's premium processing if your H-1B gets accepted in the lottery. It's 15 business days and it costs $2,805. Is there a way to start working before October with the cap, basically the cap exempt option? Yes, there is. And thank you so much for attending the last 3 meetings. That's awesome. Okay. For the H-1B, can I work 4 hours at someone's startup and work 4 hours on my own consultancy company? If yes, through one H-1B if that is part of your consultancy work and they are a client of your consultancy company, but not to be on a W-2 direct employment. If you want to be W-2 employee at both companies, then we should get 2 concurrent H-1Bs. Does citation of an abandoned patent count for an NIW? Sure, we can make that argument. I'm happy to make that argument. I have 50K in savings. Should I apply for a part-time H-1B or get some clients before going full-time? Oh, I don't know. That requires a lot of business strategy discussion that we could have in a consultation. I don't know off the top of my head. Did I say the H-1B transfer for an entrepreneur with 100% ownership in the startup is $6,250 for Alcorn services plus filing fees. The RFE is a flat fee between $1,000 and $500 if you want to respond to an RFE, if we get an RFE. How many sessions do we provide to prepare an H-1B transfer application to make sure it's compliant? We have a welcome call. We do a bunch of work. You have homework. We have homework. You get to review it. We'll answer questions as necessary, but it's not the type of thing where a bunch of phone calls solves it. It's more about making sure we have the right information, preparing everything accurate, and then making sure you've signed off on it. And then last question, are we legally allowed to set up an LLC with an H-1B on another company? You can set it up. Why is everybody doing questions right now, people? We're already over time. You can own an LLC. Anybody anywhere in the world can open a company in the United States. You just can't work there. So if the company exists, it's more risky that what you're doing could be accused as unauthorized work. Does the new visa rule from yesterday apply when getting visas for fingerprint need from US? There's this new registry thing. It doesn't make sense. I think it's mostly for undocumented people. I don't think it applies to non-immigrant visa holders, but I'm still figuring out the details. Somebody's on an H-4 EAD, they have a master's, their own company, and multiple papers, and on the board of a national organization. You should apply for an EB-2 NIW or an EB-1A. The person who wanted to get an EB-1A should reach out to us for a consultation to discuss EB. They were going to do EB-5, but now they should look at EB-1A or EB-2 NIW. Somebody has a patent in India about defense and can't be publicly published. How do you get proof? I mean, we can use the letter and we can get a letter of recommendation. For a concurrent H-1B, do you need to check with your current employer before you moonlight? I leave that up to you. And you should also protect your intellectual property. Most clients prefer not to, but you're going to have to disclose it once they do H-1B renewal paperwork or green card paperwork for you. So you might want to do that in advance if it's a long-term arrangement. And then, is it worth it to apply for an H-1B in your first year of OPT? Absolutely. If one gets rejected, will it affect future H-1B applications? No. Okay, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much. You're awesome. I appreciate your support. If you have friends who need help, please let them know that we're happy to be a resource for them. And just thank you for your patience as we're trying to expand our services and be able to help you and create lots of creative solutions to help you with your journey, and also your patience in realizing that I've been working like 6-7 days a week for many, many months now, trying to help as many people as I can. So my schedule has, is impacted, which is why we're trying to do more webinars to be able to answer questions. So have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.